Hey y'all, it's Two Brains, Three Eyes, and I'm back with another video. And have y'all ever wondered why some people can work like the same job for 20 years while others seem to be incapable of staying anywhere? Like you get tired, you get hired and you're there for like a few months, then something starts eating away at you, and then you become restless, and then you feel trapped, or you end up quitting, or you get fired, or you somehow end up back at square one, right? You just can't seem to find stability with one job, right? And I feel like most people would look at those individuals and say, oh, they're lazy, they lack discipline, or they don't want to work. But what if that's not the real story? So what if some people aren't failing at jobs because they're broken? What if they're failing because they're trying to force themselves into a system where they don't belong in? Think about it. So the average person spends most of their life waking up, working for somebody else's dream, and then somebody else decides when they wake up, somebody else decides when you eat lunch, somebody else decides how much you're worth, somebody else decides whether you can take vacation. I remember I had a job at a call center, and I worked 9 to 6. I was off on Saturdays and Sundays. But if you ask me, 9 to 6 is like the worst schedule anyone can work, because you see the sun come up and you see the sun go down. All right, especially if you're in daylight savings time. But with this job specifically, it was just a regular call center job. And we would make cold calls and whatnot. But what bothered me with this particular job was that in order for me to take time off, I would have to put in a request 2 days before. And I would hope that it would get approved, and sometimes it wasn't. And then not only on top of that, I would have to use my vacation or my sick time anytime I had to run errands, because most of my errands required me running them, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, which was my schedule. Like if I wanted to go to the doctor, or if I had to get, a flat fixed or my car fixed, I would honestly have to do it Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, because businesses weren't open on the weekends, right? Or the places that I had to go to weren't open on the weekends. So every single time I needed time off, I had to put in requests for my PTO and my vacation time. And by the end of the year, I wouldn't have anything left to fully take my vacation. Think about that. So it wasn't ideal for me. And I slowly started to see the changes in myself. My body would not allow me to get up for work. Like literally, if I had to be to work at 9, I'll get up at 7. I'll lay there in my bed, like just staring at the ceiling. I could have my clothes ready, sorted out my clothes the day before it's ready. I could have meal prepped the day before. I could have literally everything prepared for me to get up and get out on time. But my body would force me to stay at home, or I was always late for no reason. My body just did not want to come to work. It just didn't. And society tells us that this is normal. Society tells us that living in this kind of matrix is normal. From childhood, we're trained for it. Sit down, raise your hand, ask for permission, follow instructions, don't question authority. Then school ends and we move directly into employment, where the rules barely change. We have to show up on time. We have to follow orders. Don't challenge the system. You got to stay in your lane. You got to wait for a promotion. You got to wait for $1 raise. We got to wait for retirement. And you call this adulthood? It's nothing but us living in the matrix. Now, when I say matrix, I'm not talking about robots or like science fiction. I'm talking about the invisible system of beliefs that tells people that there's only one acceptable way to live. You just got to go to school, you got to get a job, you got to work for 40 years, then you retire. And you got to hope you have enough money left to enjoy what's left of your life. And for some people, that path works fine, but others something deep inside just keeps rejecting it. And every time you clock in, you feel it. Every time you follow orders you disagree with, your spirit somehow pushes back. And every time you're told what you're worth, by someone sitting in an office, something feels off or wrong. You better pay attention. That's your conscious mind telling you something. That's your intuition that keeps whispering that you were meant for something bigger. And that's where the battle begins. On one side is security, a steady paycheck. You got benefits, you got predictability, you have approval from family and friends. And on the other side is freedom, ownership, creativity, building something that belongs to you, taking risk, writing your own story. And most people will choose security. But some people physically and emotionally can't ignore the pull toward freedom. The harder you try to fit into traditional employment, the more miserable you become. You ever notice that some people keep getting jobs but never seem satisfied? It's almost like your soul, that inner being is refusing to settle. Not because you're a failure, but because you're being redirected. Rejection is protection. If sometimes getting fired forces you toward the opportunity you would have never pursued voluntarily. Sometimes the door closes because, you're supposed to build your own door. Look at many entrepreneurs. Their stories are rarely neat and predictable. Many struggled with authority. Many bounced between jobs. Many were told, you're being difficult. And many of them felt like outsiders. But once they started creating something for themselves, everything changed. The same traits that made them bad employees suddenly made them great entrepreneurs. Questioning, authority became, in a way, innovation. Being stubborn became persistence. Refusing to fit in became personal branding. Taking risks became wealth creation. What looked like flaws was actually a gift in the wrong environment. Now, this doesn't mean everyone should quit their job tomorrow. I am not saying that. Entrepreneurship is hard, okay? There are no guarantees. There are months when nobody buys. There are days when you doubt yourself. There are moments when, you'll wish you had a boss, because then at least someone else would be responsible. But for people who constantly feel trapped by traditional employment, it might be worth asking an honest question. Am I bad at jobs, or am I trying to force myself into a role that doesn't match who I am? Because there's a difference. A lion struggles in a cage. That doesn't mean the lion is weak. It just means it's in the wrong environment. And maybe that's what some people are experiencing. Maybe they're not broken. Maybe they're just builders. Maybe they're creators. Maybe they're leaders. Maybe you're a visionary trying to survive inside systems designed for nothing but followers. The world needs employees, yes, but it also needs entrepreneurs. It needs people willing to create businesses, creating opportunities, creating products, creating solutions. And without entrepreneurs, there are no jobs to begin with. So if you spent years beating yourself up because you can't seem to stay satisfied working for somebody else, stop for a moment. Just think, breathe, woosah. So instead of asking what's wrong with me, ask, what am I being called towards? What keeps showing up in my mind? What business idea won't leave me alone? What dream keeps returning every time I try to ignore it? Because sometimes your frustration isn't a sign that you're failing. Sometimes it's a sign that you're waking up, and maybe the universe isn't punishing you. Maybe it's pushing you toward the life you're supposed to build. You know, the Matrix wants you to believe that your value comes from your job title, but your value existed before you ever clocked in. Bet that. Your purpose is bigger than a time card. Your potential is bigger than a paycheck, and your future may be waiting on the other side of the risk you've been afraid to take. Just go for it. Just go for it. Now, are you feeling exhausted? Are you feeling defeated? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section, because this video was for you. This is the universe speaking to you. So let me know in the comment section, and I'll see y'all on the next video.